but I do have kind of a short presentation at the very beginning over a topic that a lot of people seem to be kind of interested in. It's around emotional intelligence. But before I do that, if you don't mind, I am going to go ahead and it's just me today. So you guys got to bear with me with the technology over here. I'm going to send this form to have you guys fill out. It's just a couple of questions, but I want to be able to stay in contact with you guys after the presentation today. So I'm going to go ahead and add this into the chat window. In addition, throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to, use the chat feature to ask questions. I know there were a couple of prepared questions before, so I want to make sure, to keep this as interactive as possible. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So I will share my screen. Again, I feel like I say this every time. Just bear with me with this because I gotta get the technology figured out over here. So hold on one second. Sorry. So embarrassing when I can't get it to figure out. Hold on. Get over here. Okay. Let me know when you guys can see my screen. We good? Okay, cool. Alrighty. So like I mentioned, today's presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. And then I want to leave some time at the end of the presentation for questions. And then if you do have questions, like I said, please utilize the chat feature. I'm unable to see the chat since I am sharing my screen, but I'll make sure that the questions get answered at the end of the presentation. All right. So first and foremost, I know, already have a, great, my name is Heather Brown. I know that I've already, introduced myself, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew I am the campus recruiter for our CBIZ New York location. I have been with CBIZ for about 3 years now. So I've been in y'all's shoes before. I actually used to be an auditor at another public accounting firm. So I know what y'all are going through. I've been in your shoes before. It's kind of a crazy world to be, an accounting major. A lot of different things kind of coming to you at once. I do sit out of Kansas City. So I'm not sure if, anybody knows that. I do live in Kansas City. Pre-COVID, I did travel up to New York quite a bit for campus events, if we had in-office interviews. So I was up in New York quite a bit, not doing any traveling right now, but it's fun to be able to, do this virtually with you guys. Okay. So what does, emotional intelligence mean to all of you? EI, this is a type of social intelligence that involves, understanding one's own and others' emotions as well, to guide your thoughts, your and actions in a healthy and positive way. A lot of the times, it's hard to kind of understand, how to react to certain ways, so certain situations. So that's what we're going to talk about on this next slide. There are 5 attributes of emotional intelligence. Okay. The first one is going to be self-awareness. This is going to be recognizing your own emotions, how they affect your thoughts and behavior. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses, I think, is also pretty key here. I know that I like public speaking. I'm also very, I don't have much of a filter. So if something, for me, that's something that could be a strength or a weakness. If I don't agree with something, I typically disagree with it right away. So being self-aware of certain attributes is an important trait. Self-regulation would mean controlling impulsive feelings and behaviors. Managing your emotions in healthy ways. So like I said, I don't have much of a filter. So I have to sometimes be like, okay, I should respond to this later because I might be responding to it in an emotional way and I should just hold on for a second and respond later when I'm not so emotional about the topic. Motivation is another attribute, which is, taking initiative and adapting to challenging circumstances. I think we can all admit 2020 was something that we had to adapt to. We had to adapt. I mean, I know all of you had to adapt to remote learning. You still are doing that. Adapting to, not being able to leave our homes for months at a time. So that is another attribute of EI. Empathy is something that I will admit I tend to struggle with sometimes, which is understanding the emotions and needs of other people. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've seen with empathy is sometimes it's hard to be empathetic in a virtual setting, because a lot of the times it's hard to really tell if somebody is struggling or is in need in a virtual setting. So that's something I've really had to really work on the last year. Is I'm at home. I don't see my coworkers. So I have to check in with people and make sure that they're doing okay, to make sure that, I am being empathetic to other people, because I know people are the same way to me. And then the last thing is social skills, which is developing and maintaining good relationships, but then also knowing how to manage conflict with those. So, I know a lot of our interns, throughout, nationwide here at CBIZ are working remote right now. So they've had to really learn how to develop good relationships with our professionals while being in a virtual setting. Something to also think about is the whole managing conflict aspect. Sometimes it's really hard to have difficult conversations over a virtual setting. So kind of learning how to, adapt to that's important. So I know I just said a lot there. Any questions for any of these attributes? And I can't see if there's a chat, or if there's any questions. So feel free to. No, we're good. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving on. Okay, so emotional intelligence in the workplace. Okay, so I know a lot of you guys are probably interning right now, or maybe have had internships. There's going to be some day-to-day challenges and some situations that are going to be frustrating as an intern, and even as a full-time associate. Y'all are going to be experiencing some fun deadlines, and I know we have one of my interns on this call right now, and I'm sure he's dealing with the deadline coming up here in May. In addition, you're also going to be spending a lot of time with clients and colleagues that may have different types of personalities than you. I'm going to be transparent. You're going to have to work with clients that you maybe, you're probably not going to clash with every single client you come in contact with. So you have to adjust the way that you communicate with people if you clash with their types of personalities. We're all not going to get along with everybody. It's just the way that it is. So be transparent on that. Something else, and this is something that I always ask when I interview, is you may have situations where a teammate may not be contributing their fair share. So you're going to have to figure out how to respond to that as well. And that's always an interview question I ask, because we've all been on those group projects where maybe somebody hasn't been pulling their end of the weight. So you want to, you want to figure out how to respond to that as well. And then the last thing here is responding to constructive feedback is also something that I don't think anybody really likes to deal with. But you will have to figure out how to respond to that constructive feedback when you do get it. So we'll say when you get feedback, it just means we want you to be better. We want you to do well. And I think if you're not receiving feedback, you should ask for it. Always ask for feedback, because it's going to make you a better professional. All right. I'm going to keep going if there's no questions. Okay. You guys can tell I'm very casual, so please ask questions if you have any. Okay. So how do you respond to these situations that we just discussed, all these different workplace realities. As I mentioned earlier, it can be very, very easy to act impulsively and emotionally when you have a difficult situation. So that if that maybe you receive the constructive feedback that you're not okay with. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes you want to respond to something because really quick, and it may not be the most, professional response because you have way too much emotion in it. So something that I have to remind myself, I've been out of college, you guys, for 7 years now. I still have to kind of deal with all these different types of different emotions. So try to check in with yourself first before responding to a difficult conversation or a comment or whatever it is. Ask yourself, why is this upsetting me? Is it going to impact my day-to-day life? Is it going to impact my team? Why is this upsetting me? Ask yourself, is this something that might change if I respond to it in a certain way? Or is this something that I can change? Also, sometimes I feel like this is hard for a lot of people to admit is, are you understanding all of the sides of the situation? That can be really hard because you could be hearing something from somebody else, and you may not understand where the other person is coming from. So you got to understand all sides of the situation. And then just another checkpoint is, if you do respond in a certain way, is it going to impact the situation? If you respond like harshly or whatever it is that going to impact your client's response or your coworker's response? So just some things to, kind of keep in mind there. Remember, you cannot change others, but you can change how you react to the situation. You got to also understand that there are other unknown factors that can influence a situation. And, if you're like me, it is okay to step away from being an auditor. Sometimes there were some situations that I needed to take a break. So sometimes, and I will say, I've just got a notification that my internet is unstable. So if I go away, I'm really sorry, guys. I'm trying. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. So bear with me, okay? What was I saying? Oh, okay. If you need a minute, go ahead and step away. When I was an auditor, I would have maybe like a client conflict or something like that. I would go walk around the building. I just would get away from my desk for 5 minutes and give myself a breather. Sometimes you need that. I know it's hard now because you're at home, but I'll do it now. If something, if I got an email about something that was maybe a little upsetting, I'll just walk around. I'll go play with my dog. I'll do something for 5 minutes just to give myself a breather. So learning how to respond to those situations is crucial. Any questions? I'm going through this really fast. I'm a really fast talker. I'm trying not to be. Any questions right now? Okay. We'll keep on going. Okay. So something to, keep in mind is practice is going to make perfect with, emotional intelligence. It can be improved upon throughout your career. Like I mentioned, I've been out of college for 7 years now, and I am still having to check in with myself when it comes to emotional intelligence and making sure that I'm responding to situations the right way. It's something you're always going to be, working on when you get into your career. Understanding your emotions as well as as well as others' emotions is a skill. Like I said, that's one thing I struggle with is empathy and having to take a step back and check in with people. Each new scenario or conflict, whatever conflicts come into play. And like I mentioned, when it comes to receiving constructive feedback, it's good to get feedback. It's a learning opportunity. And I know that I've had interns ask me in the past, what are some challenges that, come into play as an intern. And it's the fact of learning how to respond to constructive feedback, because there is a learning curve, and you want to learn how to respond to the feedback that you receive. And then responding consistently with high emotional intelligence is going to take time, and it is going to take practice. Like, practice makes perfect. So learning how to respond to things that that are more on the emotional side is going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of practice. I'm going through this really fast, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm talking so fast. Any questions?
I do
I want
have
to
a
make sure.
question.
Yes.
So isn't there like an emotional intelligence test that, anyone can take so that we can be aware of how, what is our emotional intelligence types, and how we can also, understand ourselves, so that we can, when we go work in our company or firm, we know how to handle our emotions based from the test, and
Yes,
we are aware. Um,
there is.
do you recommend those, or do you guys encourage those in CBIZ?
We do. So we actually did one as a team, because that was one a huge topic at one of our team retreats last year, was emotional intelligence. And everybody has strengths and weaknesses when it comes to emotional intelligence. So yeah, if you just Google like emotional intelligence quizzes, there are ways to go out there. And that's why I know empathy is something I struggle with. So it's one thing that I have to consistently work on. So that's a really good question. Definitely recommend you guys doing those, especially going into like your first year as an accountant. Any other questions? No? Okay. Keep on going. I know I'm going through this fast. I apologize. Okay. So I feel like I've kind of touched on a lot of the things in this slide, but you need to go into your career with a well-rounded approach. You need to, in order to successfully move forward in your career, a well-rounded and balanced approach to situations is essential. Active listening is something that I don't know, it's something that a lot of people struggle with. One of the things that people have gotten feedback before is you got to not along. That way you know that you're listening. Even in an interview, guys, I will say it's hard virtually. I think virtual interviews are tough for a lot of people, but you want to be able to portray that you are actively listening. So even if you're just nodding along, make sure that you're actually listening, because I do know that that is a struggle for a lot of people, is they're nodding along but they may not actually be listening. So something that I recommend is, in order to prove to maybe an interviewer or a future coworker, is if they're asking you a question, always repeat it, or repeat, if they were giving you instructions, always repeat it, because you want to be able to portray that you were actually listening to them, because active listening is huge, especially in trainings. Because sometimes a lot's coming, kind of being thrown at you. You got to be listening. It comes back to you. It is really important, you guys, to build and maintain relationships with the people that you work with. Honestly, like, no matter how long you're at a company, having those relationships is huge. I mean, I've been here with CBIZ for 3 years, and I keep in contact with people that I used to work with at my old firm. And it's good to have those relationships at work, because you're going to have those days where you just need to go to somebody and talk to them about something. So it's always good to have a compassionate ear when others are having a bad day. We have a member of our team who is the most empathetic person I've ever met in my entire life. She's always checking in with us. She's always, always just like, "Are you doing okay?" And so it's great to have somebody like that, on your team. Um, and then it's also very important to, know how to adapt, be flexible and resilient in challenging situations, which I mentioned at the very beginning of this. You guys everybody had to be that way last year, but specifically students, y'all had to be really, really flexible with, moving to that remote learning. I don't know how y'all did it. I struggled enough going home and working from home. So you guys really had to learn how to adapt and, be flexible in the current environment. Okay, we got a couple of scenarios here. Any questions before I go into the scenarios? No? Okay. I'm gonna keep going. Again, I can't see if I don't know if I think there's a raise your hand. I can't see any of that, guys. So you're gonna have to speak up. Remember, I'm casual here. Okay, couple of situations. So let's say you have been randomly assigned for a class group project. You get along great with most people in your group, but you get along with them, you get, meeting times, and you guys get to work on whatever you're doing. But Morgan or whoever doesn't respond to any group chats, hasn't shown up for any meetings, and has not been contributing the same quantity and quality of work as the rest of the group has. Y'all are getting very, very frustrated with Morgan. And this is something that I bet all of us have had to deal with at least once, when we were in college. I know I had to. So how might you respond if somebody is not actively participating in emotional intelligence? Y'all are going to get frustrated. It's going to further progress negative emotions and actions that you have about Morgan. You're probably going to complain about Morgan to the rest of the group. You're going to assume that Morgan is lazy or doesn't care about school or her career or anything like that. And you're probably not going to check in with Morgan just to see just to check in with her on how she's doing personally. So if you were practicing emotional intelligence, you would do the following. You would reach out to Morgan and communicate. You would note your concerns about the group project participation. You would ask if she needs any help. And then you would ask, how much they can, actually contribute. Depending on how she responds, you may learn more about the situation. You may react appropriately. You may learn that Morgan's actually going through something really hard right now, maybe a death in the family or whatever it might be. So it's really important to communicate with her and check in with her and make sure that, she's okay. I will say it's also very important to set realistic, measurable goals for you, Morgan, and the rest of the team. I will say this could also be something opposite. I had a situation when I was in college where there was a certain girl who would do the entire project and wouldn't engage anybody on the team. And we all wanted to contribute. And so there's also you also need to respond to that in an emotional intelligence way, but you would probably not set it as, meeting measurable goals, but it would be more like having, a face-to-face or a conversation with her about, do you not trust the group? Can we, work on, can you assign this to me, this, this to this person? Because it could be, come from both ways there. So something to keep in mind. All right. I'm going to go to the next slide. So why is all of this important? I know I've been talking really fast. Why is all of this important? It's going to provide a balance in your life. It's going to affect school. It's going to affect your work performance, your physical and mental health. Like I mentioned a couple of slides ago, check in with yourself. If you need a 5-minute break, go walk around the building, do what you need to do, but make sure that your physical and mental health is not being impacted by how you respond through emotional intelligence. It's also going to affect your relationships as well. If you can't have a conversation with somebody based off of, how they're responding to certain situations, that could impact your relationship. Having high intelligence will help you achieve success in whatever you're trying to do. But your emotional intelligence is what's going to help manage that stress and other challenges that come in life. Like I said, I don't know how many of you guys are interning right now, but I know it's can be very stressful as an intern, especially the first time you've ever seen anything. So obviously having high intelligence will help you achieve success, but you want to be able to have emotional intelligence behind it to help deal with the stress that you have as an intern. Any questions? I know I've been talking really fast. Okay, we'll keep going. Okay. This is the last slide, and then I want to give you guys some time to ask questions. And I know Quinn sent over a couple of questions that you guys had prepared. Emotional intelligence helps to relieve stress, helps you communicate effectively and efficiently, empathize with others. Like I said, that's something I have to struggle with. It'll help you overcome challenges and diffuse conflict. And it'll help you build, stronger relationships in and outside of school and in the workforce. Because that's, like I said, huge thing is to have those relationships in the workforce. All right. Any questions right now?
Hi, Heather. This is Sal.
Hi, Sal.
First off, I want to say thank you for taking, time to speak with us today, especially during your busy schedule. I love the presentation, and I love the fact that you didn't really go too much in detail with CBIZ, but more of connecting with us personally about these aspects in the interview process and even in the firm itself. So my question for you is, simply taking what you have presented us today, what are some key things that you kind of learned in your progression through the internship process that could resonate with us now?
Okay, so something that I learned. Okay, so and maybe I might have, I don't know if I touched on this. Honestly, being able to communicate efficiently and effectively is huge, no matter what it is, no matter if you're communicating verbally or written. I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, especially interns, but also say asking lots of questions is huge, no matter if it's something you're not sure about. Asking questions and checking in with your team is very important.
I agree.
So that kind of answered your question.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And I was actually going to touch base on that as well, because, you pointed out active listening, and I absolutely agree with that as well, because, you're not paying attention to directions or following guidelines if you're not actively listening or paying attention. So I was going to ask, is it bad to ask too many questions? Because, I want to make sure that I'm able to attain the task properly, just trying to wing it and see what the results are. I mean, I have Professor Collier and tough projects, and I'm always constantly asking questions in my team, am I fulfilling my part right? So it's okay to ask questions then, in your opinion.
Yes, please do. I will say, one thing that I used to always tell my interns when I used to be a senior was, if you have a question, see if you can work on something else and then come back to it later. Just kind of keep a tally of all the questions that you have and then go to your senior or your manager at once. Don't ask one question and then come back 5 minutes later with another question. Kind of compile a list. And then maybe if you're working on another task, you may be answering a former question that you already had. So you got to ask questions. And I will say, no question is a dumb question, especially as an intern. You guys are going through a lot when it comes to learning how to apply that technical background. That's a challenge. It really is. The work's the same everywhere, but you have to learn how to apply your technical background. So please ask questions, but maybe not ask 75 questions at once. Try to work through them a little bit. That's one thing that I'm pretty stubborn. And when I was an auditor, I was just like, oh, I'll figure this out. I'll figure this out. And my in charge one time was like, Heather, give yourself like 30 minutes. If you can't figure it out, you got to come talk to us, because we could have helped you resolve it in like 3 minutes. So give yourself a happy medium there when it comes to holding, challenging yourself with a task.
Thank you. I appreciate the insights.
Welcome. Any other questions? Okay, well, I know, Sal mentioned this. I did just really quick want to give you guys just a little bit of background on CBIZ. Literally, it's like 2 slides, because I know some of you guys may not know, a lot about us. So I did just want to do a little little introduction to CBIZ. For those of you guys that don't know, we are not just an accounting firm. We're actually considered a professional services firm. We have two different sides of the business. One side of the business is going to be that financial or we call it financial services, which is where all of our accounting work is done, as well as litigation. We have a valuation group, risk advisory services. That's all going to be on that financial services side. The other side of the business is our benefits and insurance side. That does a lot of benefits consulting, payroll consulting, but the majority of our business is that top 10 public accounting firm. We are a national firm. We don't have any locations overseas. We're just here in the US. We have over 100 offices. I will say we're primarily, our largest offices are going to be up in the Northeast, New York, New England area. We have a bunch of California offices, and then we have pretty large Florida locations as well. Only location we're really not tapped into is Texas from the FS side, but we do have locations pretty much all over. Like I mentioned, I'm in Kansas City. It's our largest office, but we're actually headquartered out of Cleveland. So just a little bit about us. We are constantly growing, you guys. Our business model is all based on acquiring firms, whether it's a public accounting firm or like a small benefits and insurance practice. We're constantly, making acquisitions. Our Denver office is our newest office. We acquired them about 5 years ago, and they started out at 40 people, and now they're at over 110 employees in that office. So it's really good that we step into markets that need us. So there's my CBIZ information, just in case anybody had no idea. There it is. And then I did want to tell you guys that all of our opportunities are going to be out on our website, cbiz.jobs. Stay connected with me. I'm going to add, as soon as I get out of the sharing my screen, I'm going to add the form again to the chat. Stay connected. I'm going to be reaching out. My email address is right here, so don't hesitate to reach out to me. But I want to stay in contact with you. We love the FDU students that come into our pipeline. So I definitely, want to make sure you guys all have my contact information. Okay. I'm going to unshare my screen, and I want to, I know Quinn, you sent me over some questions. So I want to make sure that those get answered. Any other questions right now, you guys, since, like I said, you can tell I'm very casual. I want to make sure you guys get answered everything. Here, let me add this in the chat. I'm going to add that form in the chat again. So any questions? I know we still have a little bit of time.
Hi, Heather. My name is Cassandra. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. My question for you is, you had mentioned you worked with a previous public accounting firm. What made you choose CBIZ, and what do you like about the culture within CBIZ?
Yes, good question. I get that question a lot. So, truth be told, I always knew I kind of wanted to go into recruiting. So this opportunity came up 3 years ago. I was 3.5 years into my auditing career, and I was really just ready for a change. So this opportunity came up and I went for it. Haven't really looked back. What keeps me here and what I think is different than, my previous firm is I did come from a larger firm. I'll be transparent with that. I did come from a larger firm. Every firm has its advantages and disadvantages, as I always love to emphasize. I like that CBIZ is kind of in the happy middle. We're mid-size. So we really like to vocalize the mid-size aspect. We're top 10s. We're kind of there in the middle. We compete with, other top 10 firms for clients, but we're also competing with smaller firms as well for clients. So I like that we're kind of there in the middle. Just remember, every firm, has its advantages and disadvantages. So you got to find the place where you can see yourself growing and succeeding. But I like the fact that we're right there kind of in the middle, and you would never, you never feel like a number here at CBIZ. So always like to vocalize the mid-size aspect.
Thank you.
Good question.
I mean, and then just to go on top of that, you had mentioned the one office in Cleveland, or I might have forgotten the location. It had about 110 employees. Now within your office, what number do you have? And I mean, have you been able to like meet a lot of different people within your office alone?
Yeah, so Kansas City, we have about 500 people here. It's more than just, we have, Kansas City has a pretty large benefits and insurance side as well. So that's why we have about 500 people here. I would say the majority of our locations, like our New York office, I believe they're at about 180 professionals in that office. Before pre-COVID, I tried really, really hard to make sure that I was networking with people outside of my team. So my biggest recommendation to all of you, no matter where you end up, you got to network with people outside of your direct teammates. Because like I mentioned, I'm still in contact with people I used to work with at my old firm, made really great relationships there. And majority of them weren't people that were on my actual team. They were outside of my team. So always recommend networking, whether it's just shooting over an email saying, hey, can we connect for 15 minutes virtually through and maybe whenever, we do in-person stuff again, you can say, can we meet for coffee for 15 minutes? So I hope I'm answering your question. I always just like to say network, because you never know when you're going to need to be in contact with those people again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
May I ask if, our previous interns from CBIZ and our upcoming or current interns in CBIZ share a little bit of their experience for a few, for a minute or two?
Logan, I see ya.
Yeah, so I'm Logan Wallace. I'm working as a tax intern right now at the New York office. I have been for the last year and I guess technically 3 months at this point. And I'd say that I've loved the experience so far. If anyone has any questions, let me know while I'm talking. Feel free to shout them out. But yeah, very, very, as you emphasized earlier, that sort of mid-size atmosphere, it really kind of pays off. I have a more like in-depth relationship with the managers that I work with. I'm actually getting plenty of work done, not just, running coffee or doing administrative tasks. I'm actually getting the tax work done. And all in all, it's a fantastic experience so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing the relationship.
I want to ask Logan a question. Logan, what would you say was your biggest challenge stepping into an internship last year? So I know it's been a year, but what was your biggest challenge maybe in like your first few weeks as an intern?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm lucky enough that when I actually started my internship, we were still, personal, right? So one of the big issues for me was actually like putting myself out there and getting to know the people around me a little bit better. I kind of sat in the corner of the office, so that didn't really help much when it came to starting out those relationships. But, once you get the networking started and you get the ball rolling, you get work from a senior, right? And then eventually they refer you to the manager and you get to know them better, so on and so forth up the chain.
That was great. Thanks, Logan. Any other questions? I like that, Quinn. That was great. And I know we do have some future interns on this call. It's fun to kind of see everybody virtually. This is awesome. So yeah, any other questions from any of you guys? Come on, I know we got some. Well, I'll go to Quinn. You sent over those questions to me earlier. So one of the questions that you had for me was, what are you looking for when hiring interns? Technical skills versus soft skills? That's a really good question. I will say as an intern, you guys, you're going to have the technical knowledge that you learn in school. However, that's not going to be something that we are interviewing for, because you're going to need to learn how to apply that. So I really look for those soft skills, especially when I'm interviewing. The knowledge that you learn in school is obviously going to pay off in the long run, but you have to learn how to apply it. So that's not something I really interview for. And Logan, you can maybe vouch for that as well. You're going to learn a lot, but those soft skills are huge, especially when I look for hiring interns versus, well, really associates as well. If I'm looking for full-time people, we know you guys are going to come in and learn. So I don't really, I never ask technical questions, and none of our interviewers do as well. It's all soft skills and tell me about your involvement in college and stuff like that. So that's that. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll go to the next one. Are there opportunities for finance students at CBIZ? Okay, this is a really good question. I get this a lot. In our New York office, no. We pretty much only have opportunities for accounting students in our New York office. However, we do have a pretty large advisory private equity practice that is headquartered in Philadelphia, but they're actually wanting to grow that practice. They have people that sit out in Denver, California. I think there are a couple that sit out in our New York office, but those aren't really entry level. I do see here's that practice booming and really looking more at finance students on that side, because it's more of that private equity advisory side. So more to come there. Let's see. What protocols or fun activities? So what protocols or fun activities did CBIZ implement during the pandemic? Logan, you might be able to answer this a little bit more from a New York standpoint. I know my team, we have weekly check-ins with each other virtually just to make sure, like, hey, y'all doing okay? Logan, what was something that that the office implemented? And I know it's been kind of crazy since the pandemic started, because you all had that crazy deadlines last year. But was there anything that was implemented that you felt that was important?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there were a couple of different fun activities that were implemented, especially we're planning, I know for sure, that when the first tax deadline actually ends, because we can't do like a interpersonal get together, I believe that we settled on a baking stream that everyone was going to join in on and try to learn how to bake something.
Okay.
We're also trying to implement a book club moving forward to keep people more connected while virtual and getting ready to go back into the office. Very helpful for morale, definitely.
That was great. And I do know this was also hosted from by the New York office in December. We actually had a volunteer opportunity through CBIZ Cares and our CBIZ Women's Advantage group, where we actually, and I don't know, Logan, if you participated in this, but they actually blocked our time and we wrote letters to individuals that are in nursing homes. This happened right before Christmas. So there's been ways to make sure that everybody feels connected virtually as well. All right. That's all I had, you guys. Did you have any other questions for me? I want to make sure, I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but I want to make sure that you guys get everything answered. Logan, was there anything you wanted to add? I'm just going to keep pinning over to you. Anything you wanted to add?
I mean, I can definitely vouch earlier on when you said that, you're looking more for soft skills rather than like actual straightforward knowledge. I can vouch 100%. I went into my tax internship the same semester that I was taking my first tax class. So CBIZ does a very, very good job of, trying to actually train you up rather than basically saying, well, here are the tools that you need, send you on your way. So it's a very big kind of friendly atmosphere where they're interested more in training you for the future than demanding from you now.
We got you back, Heather.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I knew that was going to happen, but I'm glad it happened towards the end. I apologize. My internet's not very good, and it kind of freaks out every time I'm on. I probably get that figured out. But anyways, Quinn, was there anything you wanted to add at all?
Yes. Because we do have a couple of incoming interns at CBIZ. So I do want to like ask them and share their opportunity. How was their interview process went, the recruiting process went, and share their thoughts, why they applied to CBIZ and everything.
Yeah. So Michael, I see you there.
Delunto and also Lauren, one of our couple of our star members here in BAP.
I started my, can you guys hear me all right? I started my recruiting process in the fall, and I thought it was super smooth. I mean, everyone was very friendly and outgoing, and like basically every person I talked to preached that the culture was like second to none. So I thought that was definitely very intriguing, and everyone would want to join that. So, I mean, I feel like it was very professional and organized in everything that I was a part of. Everyone was like perfectly on time. Everyone was super friendly. And yeah, I thought it was definitely my first choice, and I was super happy that I got an offer.
We're looking forward to having you join us this summer, Michael. I know we had Trevor and Lauren, but yeah, I mean, they just interviewed with us this spring, all in virtual. You guys, I wish we could all be back in person together one of these, but hopefully, in the future. But you guys, everybody did a really good job of, adapting to virtual interviews. I know it's been something. I know it's been something for our team.
Yeah, it's definitely really good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you guys, this has been fun. I wish, it's nice for me. I'm in Kansas City, so I can see everybody. Pre-COVID, I had, I would have members of our team come, but honestly, it's really fun for me to be able to be a part of these presentations, we, like I said, we love our FDU students, that come in to our firm, and, please, I've sent over that form. Please, make sure you guys fill it out if you haven't already. I said it's only a couple of questions, but my email address, hbrown, BROWNE @cbiz.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
It is super nice to see you, Heather. I remember applying since sophomore year, and now I'm a senior. And every time on my first interview with CBIZ, I was super excited to meet you in person because we've been emailing since then. And it's always like, oh, Heather can't come because she's away. She's not really in New York this time. So it's just good to see you now. Even though virtually, nice to meet you. That's what we've been saying nowadays. So it's really, really a pleasure and an honor to have CBIZ and Heather Brown, the one and only Heather Brown, on the call and at BAP. So hopefully we'll see more of CBIZ.
Yes, you will. Thank you all so much. Appreciate, your time today. And like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out to me with questions. I know I recognize a lot of your guys' names on here. I just finished my third spring recruiting season. So, Quinn, that makes sense. Sophomore year, that would have been my first year here. So that's crazy. So I appreciate, all of your guys' time today. And I'm sure we'll see you guys this fall. It's going to be here before we know it. And Pat, I know we'll probably have a catch-up call here soon.
Yes. Just when I think
here before you know it,
thing, I realized, oh no, we're starting for that.
I know. I looked at the calendar. I'm like, oh, it's going to be here before we know it.
At least this year, I'll know a little bit more what I'm doing with Handshake.
We're still learning. They're constantly changing. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.